Hi everyone, I'm Dick Beardsley. Welcome to the fishing scene. No, it's not October. It's the middle of the summertime, but you sure can't tell it by the weather out here. Folks, I'm telling you, major cold fronts, when you're fishing in Minnesota, the Dakotas, really anywhere in the upper Midwest, cold fronts come through on a regular basis. And we had a big one come through just this morning. Now, a lot of folks think, gosh, cold front comes through, forget it. The fish just aren't going to be biting. Well, that can be true to a certain extent. Most of the time, what I've seen over the years is that the fish are affected by those cold fronts more like the second and third day than they are the day of or the day after. So don't let that keep you from going out on the water. What you got to do is just make sure that you fish a little bit slower most of the time, and those bites might not always be real hard bites. It might be real light bites. But don't give up on your fishing. What we're doing today, we're on the edge of a sunken island. I threw out a buoy to mark that edge, and we're just working a jig very, very slow along that break. In fact, speaking of a cold front fish, there's one right here. Good fish too. It feels like a walleye. Staying down like one. Hit it really light. Could hardly feel him. He's hanging down there like an eye. Oh yeah, there he comes. I see him. It's an eye. Oh yeah, I saw a nice eye too. Nice eye. Look at that beautiful white tip. I'm gonna just reach over the side here and grab that fish. Hey folks, there's a nice cold front walleye right there, huh? Nice fish, about a 19, 20-inch walleye. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Hit that jig really, really light. We're gonna get that nice gal back in the water. Look at that nice fish. There you go, baby. There. Oh man. The technique we're using, like I said, is nothing except pretty basic stuff. And when it comes right down to fishing, with all the high gear, high electronic gear out there and the technology that's out there, I've said this before and I'll say it again, keeping it simple is sometimes the easiest way to go. What we're using today is just a small 1/4 ounce jig. It's a wide gap jig, max gap from Lindy Little Joe. And then what we're doing is we're using shiner minnows. A lot of times you get into the summertime, people say, well, you got to go to leeches or crawlers. And there's some days when leeches and crawlers work the best. Problem is, on many of the lakes in west central and northwest Minnesota is a lot of the lakes where you're fishing walleyes have really a large abundance of perch, sunfish, and you throw a leech or a crawler down there and they can just eat that darn thing up before the walleyes get to it. So I almost always fish with minnows. I have leeches and crawlers along, but I almost always fish with minnows. Two reasons. One is that it eliminates, for the most part, those little small cracker-sized sunfish and perch. And secondly, if you keep some of those walleyes and you're cleaning them, almost all the time their tummies are going to be filled with minnows. So why not go after what they're feeding on? Let's get us hooked up with another shiner minnow and see if we can't connect with another one here. We just hook it right through the mouth, out the back of the head. And you think, well, yeah, but Dick, that's gonna kill that minnow. Well, it'll flop around and wiggle around on there for a while. But that's the nice thing about fishing with a jig, is that you're the one that's in control. You can use dead minnows. It's not gonna really matter. As long as those minnows look pretty fresh, it's not really gonna matter at all because you're doing the movement. Now, when the fish are like this, what I like to do is, they're a little bit spooky when you get cold front conditions in there. I like to kind of long line my jigging. Now, if I was fishing real deep water, I'd have to vertical jig, but we're in about 18 foot of water, and I like to long line that jig. More of the fishing scene after this. I'm letting line out here now so I can long line that jig. Now when I say long line the jig, I don't mean having 200 feet of line behind the boat, because then you're just not going to be able to feel that bite at all. Now sometimes people, when they're long line and jigging, like to go with a super line like say Berkley's Fire line, because of the sensitivity is so much better on it. And I will use a Fire line once in a while, but I still like going with regular monofilament. We've got spooled on here today is Berkley XL Trilene. It's just my favorite line, 6-pound test. Okay, I got plenty of line out there, and then we're just kind of jigging it, and then using the boat. What I'm doing here, I'm using my electric motor to go back up into the wind, so I drag that jig a little bit, let it fall back. The boat actually is dragging the jig a little bit because I'm moving with the motor, letting it fall back, and a lot of times when that jig stops, that's when that fish is going to pick it up. And longliner too, that jig is kind of plowing through the sand or the gravel or the mud down there, and it's stirring up some sediment, and that also can be an attractant. It'll at least get those fish thinking to themselves, something is a little different over there. There's a fish right there. It might be a walleye. It seems to be hanging down there a little bit. Hard to tell. I know it's a fish. I haven't seen him yet. Oh, it's a bass. Hey, there we go. How about that, folks? A little bonus bass here today. Not a bad one either. Come here, buddy. I'll reach down here, and you never want to thumb a walleye or a northern pike, but a bass, it doesn't hurt. About 1.5 pound bass. So look at that. Something smacked it there. Bigger fish, probably. Hey folks, I want to show you something here. See her fins back here? How they're all really messed up. You know, they're all like chopped up a little bit. This is a female, and she was down there. She's out in deeper water now, but she's still recovering. I'll get her back in the water. She's still recovering from the spawn. And what they do is they get in those areas and they make a bed, almost like sunfish do. They get in there and they use their tail to clear out areas, and then they keep fanning around those eggs to keep the sediment and all that kind of stuff that's floating around in the water off of those eggs. So that's why her tail is kind of chewed up like that. She's kind of in the recovery phase, probably just coming out of spawning and just starting to get back to the point where, you know, she's moved out to her deeper haunts. Now, like I said, we're fishing out here for walleyes off the sharp edge of a sunken island. But that doesn't mean it's just going to hold walleyes. These sunken islands hold multi-species of fish like walleyes, bass, northern pike. They'll even hold some pretty good schools of crappies and bigger sunfish at different times of the year. And it's so important to have that marker buoy out there, because if I didn't have that marker buoy out there on that edge, and you get out here in the middle of the lake like this, it's really hard to tell where you're at, especially if you're fighting a fish and the wind's blowing like it's blowing today. It'll blow you off a spot so quick, and it'll be really tough to get back on that particular spot. Get this baited up there. Now, long line and jigging is, it works okay when you got maybe a maximum of 3 people in the boat. But if you've got any more than 3 people in the boat, because with 3, one can go out one side, other person can go out the other, and then the third person can go straight out the front of the boat, because we're back trolling here. But if you get any more than that, you almost then have to vertical jig. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting all fouled up. So just kind of remember that when you're heading out there on the water. If you've got 3 people, you can long line. Any more than 3, you almost have to go vertical. Now, a lot of times, you'll snap that jig or drag it. You won't feel anything. The jig will stop. You'll go back, and that's when that fish will grab onto that jig. And really pay attention to your graph, your locator, your flasher. If you see bait fish, if you see any arcs down there off the bottom, you know, get ready, because a lot of times those arcs, they are fish. Not sure what kind, but they are fish. And many times I've been out on the water, seen an arc. Pretty soon, 10 seconds later, as the boat passes over it, my jig gets to that way, bam. Oh, he got underneath the boat there on me a little bit. Sometimes they'll do that, folks. Yeah, it feels like an eye. He's thumping down there. They'll get underneath you, or they'll start swimming towards you, and you think, oh, I don't have a fish on anymore. But I do. It's there. No, there's a walleye. Yeah, not as big as that last one, but not bad. Nice fish. Yeah, nice fish. I'm just going to kind of do the old Roland Martin bass, flip them in the boat here. Hey, there's a nice eye, huh? Boy, pretty fish, aren't they, folks? They are just such a beautiful, beautiful fish. Nice golden color to them. Nice, nice fish here. If we wanted to keep a few to eat, this would be a perfect size. See how they got the black splot there on their dorsal fin? And on their tail, they've got the white tip on there. That really shines in the water. Pretty, pretty fish. And they're toothy critters, too, let me tell you. Get that guy back in the water. When we come back, more fishing action here on the Fishing Scene. Our conditions today, we have a northwest wind. Oh, it's about anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour with some higher gusts, northwesterly blowing in that cold front. Our water temperature is about 63, 64 degrees, which is about 8 to 9, 10 degrees below what it normally is this time of the year. Air temperature, believe it or not, mid-50s in the end of June. Crazy. Water clarity, I would say medium clarity right now. The wind's kind of got things stirred up just a little bit. And we've got rain getting ready to move in to the area. There's a fish. Oh yeah, feels like an eye too. Not a real big one, but it's an eye, I think, the way he's hunkering down there. Staying down, there he comes, yep. Yeah, a little walleye. Get him in the boat here. Not all that little. I mean, he's you know, fat. He's been feeding. You can see his belly's kind of poking out there. This is a perfect kind of eating fish. Let's just measure him quick there. Yeah, 15.5 inches, perfect eating size fish. We'll get him back in the water. All right. Hey folks, cold front conditions, and it's going to be raining here pretty soon. Let's get rigged back up and get out and try to get some more fish before the rain comes. Anytime you get a cold front that comes through the area, you can always expect a couple of things. When that cold front first comes through, you're usually going to have cloudier conditions with that chance of showers, pretty much like we do today. That's why many times, as I said earlier in the show, that first day of a cold front really isn't that bad. But usually that second day or third day, if you get clear skies, calmer conditions, that's when fishing can really be a lot tougher. I'm just kind of, like I said, long lining these jigs here and popping them and bringing them back and popping them like that with a fish on. Come here, buddy. There, another walleye. You can always see in those clear water that white tail. There he comes. That's a little guy there. Sneak him up here. Boy, they're healthy fish though, folks. Hey, this one's only about a 14-incher, but he's a fat one. Look at the belly on him. He's been eating, no doubt about that. If we would have been cleaning this one here, I can about guarantee you he'd be full of minnows. Yeah, 14-incher. get him back in the water there. Hey folks, as you can see, it's starting to rain now, and we've got a big bank of clouds off to our northwest that's moving in here. Again, as long as you got plenty of rain gear with you, warm clothing like we've got today, it's really not all that bad out here. There's a fish right there. He's swimming right towards the boat. This feels like a better fish. This feels like a better fish. Oh yeah, it's an eye. I can see his tail. Nice eye. Nice eye. Nice eye. All right. Come here, buddy. Get him over here by the boat. Oh. Hey, there we go, folks. Hey, cold front conditions. Don't let it scare you, especially that first day of a cold front, first day after a cold front. Hey, fishing can be pretty darn good like it's been today. Please remember to practice selective harvesting. By doing so, we'll continue to have great fishing for years to come. I'm Dick Beardsley. For my camera gal, Raina Benson, have a great day on the water.